What if everything you believe about power, history, and hidden knowledge is a carefully crafted lie? What if the most dangerous secret on Earth isn't buried, but protected by the people you trust the most? In The Secret of Secrets, Dan Brown pulls back the curtain on a truth so explosive it was never meant to be found. Hello, everyone. Hi, all, and welcome to BookPodCastZone. I'm John.
And I'm Emma.
And we are so glad you could join us.
It's wonderful to be here. We are embarking on a truly unique kind of deep dive today.
That's right. Our sources aren't, ancient scrolls or some kind of declassified government document.
No, not this time. What we have is a complete, incredibly detailed narrative blueprint. It's a chapter-by-chapter guide to a massive emotional story arc, and it's titled Whispered Secrets, a chapter-by-chapter journey through the secret of secrets.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. We promised The Secret of Secrets, that explosive truth. And, when you hear Dan Brown, you think cryptology, the Vatican, hidden symbols.
Right, globe-trotting adventures.
Yeah, exactly. But the source material we have in front of us, it suggests that the most explosive secret of all might just be the personal one. This 24-chapter framework is the secret we're dissecting today. It's a meticulously structured roadmap for the journey of self-acceptance, of coming out and finding, enduring high school love in a world that often wants those identities kept. Well, secret.
And that's the key linkage, isn't it? The power of a secret, whether it's geopolitical or intensely personal, it rests in its vulnerability.
And the stakes.
The stakes are immense. Here, it's not just about historical truth, but the entire future and, frankly, the psychological well-being of the protagonist, a character named Charlie. Our mission is to analyze the architecture of that vulnerability across these 24 distinct narrative beats.
And they're organized into 5 major emotional arcs.
That's right. We are charting Charlie's transition from something as small as an initial nervous shared glance all the way to an eventual public declaration of permanence. And all of it happens within the incredibly intense environment of the American high school experience.
And what immediately jumps out at me is just how deliberate the pacing is. Yeah. This isn't just a story outline. It's an engineered emotional experience.
It really is.
It starts quiet. Then it explodes into a social crisis, it integrates, and then it faces the ultimate disruption of adulthood, that classic high school and boss college separation.
It's the classical blueprint for an epic romance, but it's been adapted so specifically to map the psychological and the social milestones of the queer experience today.
So we have to start where all profound connections begin.
In the silence.
Exactly. Part 1. The spark and the secret.
This first part, chapters 1 through 5, it's the genesis. It's dedicated almost entirely to the interior world. This is the period that's defined by silence, by nonverbal communication.
Where the feelings are huge, but the words just aren't there yet.
Or they're too dangerous to use. The story has this dual job: establish the initial attraction while at the same time building the tension of the undisclosed secret.
And the entire journey, the whole 24-chapter arc, it pivots on chapter 1, the moment of origin.
It has to.
So chapter 1, the day Charlie walked into art class. The core info is so simple, but it's loaded. The very first spark, a new kid, a shared glance across paint-splattered tables, and the moment everything quietly begins.
Okay, so the choice of setting here is, it's not arbitrary at all. In the U.S. high school landscape, location basically defines function.
Right. The football field is conformity, the cafeteria is this messy social hierarchy.
Exactly. But art class is traditionally designated as the space for creative expression and, crucially, for a kind of passive vulnerability.
What do you mean by passive vulnerability?
Well, it's often quieter, it's less supervised mentally, it encourages silent observation. You're focused on your work, but you're also aware of everyone around you in a different way than you are in, say, a math lecture.
You're in your own world, but in a shared space.
You've got it. So by placing the initial connection here, the narrative signals that this relationship is rooted not in public spectacle, but in a shared space of quiet introspection and emotional depth.
So why is that initial glance given such huge narrative weight? It's a non-action, technically, but it kicks off this whole epic journey.
Because it's the moment the audience has to believe in destiny, or, something close to it.
A connection that's more than just chance.
Exactly. That glance communicates. This person is fundamentally different from everyone else, and they see me. It immediately establishes the core tension. This connection is powerful, but for now, it's a shared secret between just two people. It's like a silent vow.
And it all starts with just being in the same room. I mean, shared proximity is the starting point for almost every high school romance.
It is, but locating it in art class specifically, it ensures that the emotional stakes start high. It allows the secret to grow in this fertile, sheltered environment before the outside world can really intrude.
It effectively puts the characters in a bubble. But, narratively speaking, bubbles always burst.
They have
The
to.
feelings have to leak out eventually. Which brings us right to chapter 2.
Sketchbook confessions.
This moves us from just observation to action, but it's still, like, protected action. The outline says, secret drawings, folded notes, and the first time someone writes, "I think I like you," without saying it out loud.
And here, the sketchbook transitions from just a prop to a crucial metaphor.
It's the physical manifestation of Charlie's hidden inner life. A sanctuary.
A sanctuary for personal truth. And for a teenager grappling with an identity that, society and maybe even their family sees as non-normative, that sketchbook becomes a vital repository. It allows these huge, frightening feelings to be made tangible.
Right. Committing them to paper makes them real.
But without the terrifying risk of actually saying them out loud.
So why is that indirect communication, the notes, the drawings, even texts, so much more common than just saying the words in a high-stakes place like high school?
I think it's a calculated risk management strategy. It's born from anxiety.
A verbal confession is immediate. It demands a response right there on the spot.
And it's public, potentially, or at least audible. A drawing or a folded note provides a critical buffer zone. The creator can control the timing of the disclosure, and the recipient gets the privacy to process it without the pressure of, performing an immediate reaction.
So in this context, writing "I think I like you" isn't a passive act at all.
No, it's an act of tremendous yet managed courage. It lets the secret be shared and mutually acknowledged without technically making it public yet. It maintains the tension of this first arc. The feelings are known, but the identity is still shielded.
And that very act, committing a feeling to a physical object, that's the exact mechanism the narrative uses to create this catastrophic conflict later on.
Oh, absolutely. The moment the feeling becomes a tangible, discoverable object, it becomes a literal liability.
Okay, now that there's a tangible secret, they need a place for it. Chapter 3. The rooftop that nobody knows about.
The classic secret space.
The description is rainy afternoons, stolen hoodies, and the place where two best friends start becoming something more.
The necessity of a secret, shared physical space in young adult storytelling is it's paramount. The rooftop serves as their personal structural outlier, their private island.
It's essential because it's outside the jurisdiction of authority. No parents, no teachers, no judging peers.
Exactly. It's a location where the rules of the high school hallway just cease to apply. It's an affirmation that their budding connection requires separation from the mainstream high school world to survive its infancy.
The stolen hoodies detail is so iconic in this genre. What's the deep dive significance of that specific gesture? It's not sexual, but it's incredibly intimate.
It's highly significant because it's a profound, low-risk physical connection. Lending or stealing clothes, especially something as comforting and, mundane as a big hoodie, is a gesture of merging identities.
It's about sharing warmth, claiming assent.
Sharing protection, literally. It's a material promise of closeness and a kind of ownership. They've moved past the silent glance of Chapter 1 and the written confession of Chapter 2. Chapter 3 is about building a physical sanctuary and sharing these tokens of protection, cementing their trust before the storm inevitably hits.
They're communicating this deep desire for connection without having to find the complex emotional words for it yet.
And they've effectively sealed their secret inside this private ecosystem.
But secrets don't stay contained in high school.
Yeah.
The outside world is always waiting to impose itself.
Which is exactly what happens in Chapter 4.
The party invite neither of them wanted. This is the first collision with that mainstream high-pressure environment. The notes say, house parties, truth or dare disasters, and the night the word gay gets said out loud for the first time.
This chapter is structurally mandatory. You have to have this. The high school party, especially in the U.S. context, is the ultimate arena for chaotic, forced social interaction.
It lowers inhibitions. There's often alcohol or competitive games.
Which makes it a perfect environment for unexpected truth-telling, especially through a game like Truth or Dare. It functions as the pressure point where the meticulously guarded internal secret gets violently externalized.
And the narrative introduces a label here. The word gay is said out loud. That shift from a personal feeling to a social identity, it must radically escalate the stakes.
It's seismic. I mean, up until this point, the focus was on personal discovery. I like this person, I have these feelings. Now that feeling is forcibly attached to a highly visible social category.
And in the U.S. high school environment, identity is constantly being categorized by the peer group.
Constantly. So introducing that label is often the first moment of genuine external peril for a non-heteronormative relationship. The secret is no longer just who they like, but what they are perceived to be by others. And that demands they instantly start strategizing for social survival.
The stakes have moved from intimacy to reputation. There's no going back now. And the chaos of the party demands a definitive physical act, which brings us to the climax of this entire first arc.
Chapter 5. Silence after the kiss.
Yeah, the ultimate boundary crossing. The morning after, panic texts, avoided hallways, and the terrifying beauty of mutual feelings.
The dramatic weight here is all in the post-event silence. The panic. Why the panic texts? Because the kiss, that nonverbal physical action, makes the truth undeniable and irreversible.
There's no taking it back.
None. The panic is the immediate attempt to manage the fallout. It confirms mutual feeling, yes, but mutual feeling now equals mutual danger.
And the high school hallway, which is usually just a place you walk through, becomes weaponized. It's the site of maximum tension.
Absolutely. The hallway is the most public, high-traffic, unavoidable space in a U.S. high school. If you are trying to hide a secret, the hallway is your relentless, oppressive enemy.
So it instantly becomes the place of maximum avoidance.
Right. The tension comes from trying to manage physical proximity in an environment that is designed for scrutiny. They're actively trying to avoid the one place where they are most likely to be seen together, which just confirms to them and to the audience that the secret is real and demands ongoing strategic protection.
So the first arc ends on that awful but also thrilling realization. The panic of the situation is perfectly matched by the beautiful certainty of mutual love. The secret is real, it's tangible, and it's shared.
And now the narrative structure demands consequence.
Part 1 showed the secret forming and being nurtured in private. Now Part 2 is the immediate fallout where that secret bursts out of their protected bubble.
And forces confrontation.
Before we dive into that necessary and, frankly, painful crisis, we do want to pause briefly. If you're finding value in this deep dive into narrative structure and emotional arcs, please like, subscribe, and share for more updates. Your support really helps us unlock the secrets of more sources just like this one.
Welcome back. So we've moved from these tentative glances to the definitive action of a kiss and the panic that followed. Part 2 now has to focus on how the external world reacts to the secret.
This is where confrontation, both familial and communal, is forced. It's the steepest part of Charlie's emotional survival curve.
And in any coming-of-age story, the first barrier is almost always the family unit,
The primary source of love and security.
which makes their rejection the highest possible emotional risk. And that's precisely why Chapter 6 delivers an immediate, devastating blow.
The title is just brutal. Mom found the sketchbook. The description is pure emotional devastation. When private becomes public way too fast, tears, slammed doors, and the fear that everything might be ruined.
The structural irony here is just inescapable. The sketchbook, which in Chapter 2 was this source of secret joy and self-affirmation,
It now becomes the catastrophic catalyst for involuntary crisis.
it's the ultimate violation of privacy. For any teenager, a diary or a personal art book is the last, most defended boundary against parental intrusion. Its exposure means Charlie's truth is known, but on the worst possible terms.
Terms they didn't choose. It strips them of all their agency.
Completely. Now, the source material mentions the typical U.S. parental reaction cycle. Shock, anger, emotional distress, all symbolized by slammed doors. Let's analyze the psychological stages that are implied here.
Okay, so the initial reaction is almost never instant acceptance. I mean, narratively, that would kill the tension.
Right. So instead, it's often characterized by protective fear mixed with denial. The parent is dealing with shock, which can lead to anger directed at the perceived source of distress, and then that's followed by intense emotional distress, the tears, the slammed doors.
And the slam doors are more than just a sound effect.
Oh, absolutely. They're a physical manifestation of the immediate breakdown of communication. The parent is retreating from a truth they are not yet equipped to handle. So Charlie's fear that their entire nascent world might be ruined is completely justified.
Because the very secret that defined their identity has been exposed and judged, and it's threatening the stability of their core support system.
And that isolation is crucial because it immediately necessitates a search for community.
That structural isolation is what forces the pivot to external support. The narrative can't leave Charlie alone in that fear for long, which leads directly to Chapter 7.
The support group nobody asked for.
This is the narrative's antidote to the familial crisis. The description, first GSA meeting, awkward name tags, and discovering you're not the only one carrying a secret.
The GSA, or Gender Sexuality Alliance, is a vital, structurally necessary institution in this storyline. It's a critical component of the contemporary American high school experience, often protected, sometimes even mandated, by school policy.
Its function in the narrative is immediate.
Yes, to provide an alternative, ready-made community when the primary support unit, the family, fails or fractures.
Let's give a specific U.S. context for how these spaces really function, because the symbolism rests on that reality.
Okay, so let's imagine a high school in, a socially conservative area, maybe somewhere in rural Pennsylvania or suburban Texas. The GSA is often the only place where a student can speak openly without fear of immediate peer or administrative judgment.
It usually meets in a safe place, like a specific teacher's classroom.
Right. And the initial awkwardness, the awkward name tags, is intentional. Vulnerability requires structure. The name tags force this temporary formal labeling that paradoxically allows for genuine connection.
It's a safe space where the identity, which was so destructive in the party context of Chapter 4,
Becomes validating and shared. This is where the secret transitions from an individual burden of shame to a collective identity of solidarity. This shared experience immediately reduces the weight of Charlie's isolation from Chapter 6.
So the GSA is where Charlie realizes their secret wasn't a flaw, but actually a key to belonging. It pivots the narrative from personal shame to collective solidarity.
A huge pivot. But coming out doesn't just happen once, does it?
No, it doesn't. And Chapter 8 reinforces that crucial reality. It's called Coming Out in Pieces.
A perfect title.
Telling one person, then another. Some hugs, some silence, and the surprising people who say, I already knew.
This phased, strategic approach to disclosure is so narratively sophisticated. It gives the protagonist back a sense of agency, which is a necessary recovery after the involuntary exposure of Chapter 6.
Charlie now controls the flow of information.
Exactly. They're testing the waters one trusted relationship at a time, which mitigates the psychological burnout that comes from a single high-stakes public announcement.
We have to analyze those three distinct reactions.
Yeah.
The hugs, the silence, and that profound validation of I already knew.
Okay, so the hugs are essential emotional currency. They are the affirmation that fuels the process. The silence is also critical. It's the realistic reaction of discomfort or just necessary processing time, which, while awkward, is far less damaging than outright rejection.
But the most vital reaction for the narrative arc has to be I already knew.
It completely reframes the experience. It reduces the immense burden of the secret by suggesting it wasn't some hidden flaw, but an observable, natural trait that others had already accepted subconsciously.
It validates Charlie's reality and proves that all that immense effort they spent hiding was at least partly unnecessary.
And that allows the protagonist to shed so much emotional defensive weight. It essentially tells Charlie that the truth was always visible and therefore not something that required such immense, fear-driven hiding.
This moment of self-validation allows for a period of calm, but structurally, the relationship still needs an internal test to prove its durability.
Of course, it always does.
Chapter 9, the fight that almost ended everything. So having survived the external crisis, the narrative swings back inward to test the foundation of the relationship itself. The description: misunderstandings, jealousy, and the first real test of whether love can survive high school drama.
This internal conflict is a structural necessity. Once the immediate external threats, the family crisis, the initial social exposure, once those begin to stabilize, the relationship has to be tested on its own terms.
If the couple can only bond over shared fear, that bond is fragile.
It is. But given that they just survived this major external trauma with the family, why is the narrative structure now forcing an internal crisis like jealousy? Wouldn't you expect more solidarity?
That's a great question, and it's a crucial narrative challenge. Solidarity was expected, but the intense vulnerability required to face the external world often leaves couples raw and susceptible to deeper underlying insecurities.
So jealousy in this context is rarely just about a third person.
No. It is fundamentally fueled by the fear of abandonment and the lingering doubt from Chapter 6. It's the thought, if I can be rejected by my own parents, I can certainly be rejected by you.
So this internal crisis forces them to establish genuine conflict resolution skills. It proves that their bond is resilient enough to withstand the universal, often apocalyptic feeling internal drama of high school relationships.
It confirms their love is based on tested commitment, not just shared hidden fear.
And with that, part two successfully navigated external exposure and internal friction. The challenge now shifts entirely to integration.
How do they formally take this tested relationship and make it fit into the highly ritualized and often rigid social structure of the American high school?
Welcome back. Part three is where the relationship, having survived its trial by fire, has to prove it can function in public. This arc is all about integrating their new identity into the formal rites of passage that are so common in the U.S. system.
Moving from secretive corners to public visibility.
Exactly. And integration begins with the most visible, ritualized public display of high school romance, the formal dance.
Chapter 10, Winter Dance and the Slow Song. The details here are pure Americana.
Corsages.
Nervous hands and dancing in the corner while everyone pretends not to stare.
The winter dance is a definitive U.S. high school cultural touchstone. It's an event defined by tradition and often, very rigidly prescribed gender roles, which immediately raises the stakes for Charlie and their partner.
So their choice to even attend, to get the corsages, to dance to the slow song, that's an act of radical normalcy.
It requires immense courage, not just to share affection, but to perform a typical ritual while actively defying the traditional expectations of that ritual.
That narrative detail, everyone pretends not to stare, that speaks volumes about the social atmosphere.
It perfectly captures the subtle, passive social pressure of high school. I mean, open hostility is a clear conflict you can fight against, but pretending not to stare is a form of observation and judgment that's shrouded in this performative politeness.
It confirms their presence is still an exception. It's still noteworthy.
But by choosing to dance, even tucked away in the corner, they are staking a public claim to their relationship within a highly scrutinized environment. It's a quiet but significant victory over the fear-driven avoidance of the hallway back in Chapter 5.
They are saying, we exist here too.
Yes. So they've performed the public ritual. Now they have to deepen the internal commitment beyond what they even dared to speak aloud before.
Chapter 11, the letter Charlie never sent. This is such a powerful return to the theme of commitment through writing. It links right back to the sketchbook from Chapter 2.
But this time, it's about absolute honesty. Words written at 3 a.m. that were too honest to ever mail, until now.
The unsent letter holds immense psychological power. It represents the protagonist's moment of absolute, unfiltered honesty reserved only for their solitary self.
It's where they likely articulated their deepest fears about the relationship's longevity or their absolute commitment, or maybe doubts that were too raw to risk in a real-time conversation. It's the truth whispered to the void.
So the narrative function of finally releasing this truth, this artifact of vulnerability, is to solidify the relationship against future external threats, like college separation.
Exactly. By finally sharing these words written in solitude and desperation, the couple moves past simple high school affection. It's a retrospective confession that confirms that even during periods of intense isolation and doubt, the feelings were profound and absolute. This act strengthens their emotional foundation.
It absorbs and integrates the past vulnerability, preparing them for the chaos of real-world freedom and impending independence.
The relationship is tested, and it absorbs the absolute truth contained in that letter, which gives them the strength for their essential escape in Chapter 12.
Spring break road trip, just the two of us. The classic American rite of passage. Gas station snacks, loud music, and finally saying everything that's been held back for months.
The American road trip is a crucial structural device in YA literature. It symbolizes freedom, self-reliance, and accelerated intimacy.
By removing the protagonists from the constant structured surveillance of their parents and teachers in school, they enter the self-contained bubble.
And the freedom of the open road dictates that the rules of their small community no longer apply.
Let's integrate that local U.S. context deeply here. Why are details like gas station snacks and loud music so culturally and narratively significant?
Well, they establish the atmosphere of immediate, total independence. Think about a long drive down I-95 or across the plains in Kansas. The shared gas station rituals, splitting a giant bag of Doritos, comparing regional convenience store treats like, Wawa versus Sheetz.
The ritualistic selection of highly caffeinated drinks to keep going.
It creates these intense micro-level memories. And the curated road trip playlist, blasting loud enough to block out the world, that functions as an auditory safe space. It allows them to feel completely isolated.
And this physical escape accelerates deep conversation.
They're testing their ability to exist as a fully functional, self-contained adult unit away from all external validation. It's essentially a necessary, compressed trial run for cohabitation and independence.
It's the ultimate stress test of communication, proving they can handle intense proximity and conversation before the next phase of life pulls them apart.
We've covered the first half of this emotional journey, moving from quiet glances all the way to open road trips. The narrative is gaining speed, moving towards self-acceptance and integration. If this analytical approach to storytelling is connecting with you, please help us grow by clicking like, subscribe, and share for more updates. We appreciate you joining us on this deep dive.
Welcome back. Picking up after the road trip, which was this big moment of validation, the narrative smartly takes a turn. To fully integrate, the focus shifts outward from the protagonist's secrets to the history of secrecy in their own families.
Chapter 13, When the Past Comes Out Too. The core information is old photos, family secrets, and realizing some parents have their own hidden stories.
Structurally, this is brilliant, and it's necessary to resolve the lasting emotional damage from Chapter 6, the parental crisis.
Right. Shifting the focus to parental secrets introduces this essential intergenerational complexity. The parents are instantly humanized. They are no longer just obstacles or judgmental authority figures.
They get contextualized by their own history, their own struggles with identity, their own past experiences with suppression.
And this chapter fundamentally suggests that Charlie's secret is part of a longer historical struggle, not just some contemporary anomaly unique to them.
So how does that discovery benefit the protagonist and the audience?
It provides profound empathy and a sense of legacy. If Charlie discovers a parent's own hidden history, maybe a buried nonconformity from 30 years ago, or just a deep protective fear that comes from past societal pressure, it allows Charlie to view their own journey as part of a historical continuum.
And critically, the parent's initial shock reaction in Chapter 6 might get reinterpreted.
Exactly. Not as rejection, but as a protective fear born from their own pain. This pivot allows the narrative to move toward familial healing and genuine complex acceptance, rather than forcing a simplistic clean break.
It transforms the family dynamic from one of judgment to one of complex, shared struggle.
And it reclaims the family unit just in time for Charlie to make their biggest public declaration of identity yet.
Chapter 14. Pride flags in the bedroom window. This is the ultimate public statement of ownership and visibility.
The first rainbow flag, the first argument about it, and the first time it feels like home.
The flag is the complete antithesis of the secret sketchbook and the hidden rooftop.
It is a loud, public, territorial marker. It says, this identity is not just internal, it defines this space, and I am willing to be seen for it. It's an act of visible, political, and personal resistance, all at the same time.
The detail about the first argument about it is highly realistic. What is that argument likely over?
Oh, that argument is complex. It's rooted fundamentally in visibility versus safety. One partner, maybe the one who has found more community in the GSA, might embrace the flag as necessary affirmation and an act of political self-defense.
While the other might see it as an unnecessary risk.
Exactly. Inviting judgment or potentially physical harm from the neighborhood, especially after the family trauma of Chapter 6, this friction forces them to debate the exact boundaries of their public activism and personal safety.
But the resolution is so powerful. The flag ultimately transforms the bedroom from a private room into an affirmed space. It feels like home.
Yes. The home, which was the initial site of crisis and rejection in Chapter 6, is now symbolically reclaimed through a marker of identity. It establishes that their relationship is stable and self-validating, independent of external approval.
They have successfully moved from finding a secret anonymous rooftop to proudly marking their bedroom window for the entire world to see.
And this successful integration means the narrative now has to introduce a threat that no emotional bond can defeat alone: adulthood.
Part 4. The inevitable separation.
This part introduces the universal, non-negotiable threat to high school love in America: the college track. High school love rarely dies from a lack of feeling. It often dies from the overwhelming systemic necessity of geographic separation imposed by the U.S. education system.
Which leads us directly to the moment of existential dread. Chapter 15. The college decision that could split them.
The information is universally relatable but terrifying. Acceptance letters, different states, and the terrifying question, what happens after graduation?
This represents the major structural challenge to adolescent romance in the United States. The college application and financial aid process acts as this massive, impartial external force designed to prioritize individual career paths over emotional bonds.
It tests whether the relationship can survive the structural prioritization of individual future over shared proximity.
Let's talk about the specific cultural and financial pressures that make this a uniquely American structural hurdle. It's far more than just a romantic complication.
The financial weight is crushing. For many American students, staying in-state for tuition can mean saving $50,000 to $100,000 over 4 years.
Choosing an expensive out-of-state university just to follow a partner is a gargantuan financial sacrifice.
One that can burden a young adult for decades. This decision isn't just, do I love you enough? It's, do I love you enough to potentially compromise my career and incur lifelong debt? The narrative uses this decision point to establish that the characters must now confront adult stakes, stakes that ruthlessly override the pure emotional comfort of their high school bubble.
It's the highest possible risk to the secret they spent 14 chapters building. The threat is real, measurable, and expensive.
And they must now proceed through the final high school milestones, knowing that an expiration date is stamped on their daily proximity.
Chapter 16. Prom night and the after party that mattered more. We return to a formal ritual, but this time the emotional stakes are maximal because it's their last dance. Tuxedos, glitter, and a quiet parking lot moment that feels like the real prom.
This chapter is a necessary repetition of the dance ritual from Chapter 10, but it's infused with finality. It again highlights the performative nature of traditional U.S. high school rituals like prom.
The main event, the dancing, the tuxedos, the public display, that's the obligation, the spectacle they have to perform for the external world.
And once again, the narrative emphasizes that the true meaningful connection happens outside the official event. Why the persistent focus on the private, authentic space?
Because it reinforces the core thesis of the narrative. Their relationship thrives in authenticity and intentionality, not public spectacle or forced conformity.
The quiet parking lot moment is where the real prom happens. They've learned that their most important exchanges occur when they opt out of the structured, supervised event. Prom is necessary for the external checklist.
But the after-party conversation, raw, unsupervised, and focused on the terrifying future, that's what ultimately confirms their bond right before separation looms large.
The structure is telling us that true connection is always found in the authentic moment, not the prescribed ritual.
Which leads to Chapter 17, the last day of senior year. This is a moment of necessary high emotional closure. It's the definitive end of the environment that incubated their secret.
Yearbooks, empty lockers, and promises written in Sharpie on each other's arms.
This chapter is just dense with closure symbolism. The empty lockers represent the physical structure that housed their secrets is now hollow, left behind. The ritual of signing yearbooks is about formal remembrance.
But the detail that really sticks with you is the promises written in Sharpie on each other's arms. That sounds like a painfully specific, high-stakes gesture.
It is the ultimate commitment gesture for this specific age group. It's physical, it's difficult to remove, and therefore it's a tangible, temporary tattoo of irreversible intent.
Unlike a text or a verbal vow, Sharpie on skin signifies a willingness to carry that commitment visibly and literally into the next phase of life. It's a desperate, visible act designed to counteract the overwhelming geographic threat introduced in Chapter 15.
They are trying to make a permanent declaration using an impermanent medium, reflecting the emotional volatility of the moment.
And the intensity is just building. They've performed the rituals, they've made the physical promises. Now they have to face the countdown.
Chapter 18. Summer of Goodbyes, Part 1. The start of the painful transition and the rise of separation anxiety. Countdowns, long-distance fears, and trying to hold on to something that's already slipping.
This is the inevitable, painful, emotional transition. The mental burden of the countdown clock, the obsessive marking of days until the physical separation, is immense and psychologically draining. This chapter focuses on the anxiety that the established rhythm of daily life is dissolving.
They're operating on borrowed time.
They are, and the fear of slipping isn't just about cheating, it's a much deeper anxiety about irrelevance, isn't it?
Absolutely. The greatest fear is that their lives will change so rapidly in separate, demanding college environments that they will cease to be relevant to each other. They fear that the person they are becoming will be a stranger to the person they are leaving.
This chapter is essential psychological preparation for the long-distance phase. It demonstrates the vulnerability that arises when proximity, their original binding force, is withdrawn.
They're moving from a relationship of shared experience to one based purely on mutual faith and intentional effort.
We are in the thick of the emotional climax, the summer of separation. These moments are crucial for showing the resilience of the bond. We hope this analysis is proving helpful in seeing the story beats. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share for more updates as we move into the final arc of this deep dive.
So the narrative structure demands that before the actual separation occurs, the relationship must undergo one final ultimate test.
To see if it can truly transition from high school love into a mature, long-term commitment.
Chapter 19, Summer of Goodbyes, Part 2. The emotional escalation culminates here. The fight over the future, the almost breakup, and the night everything almost ends.
This is the most intense, brutal fight of the entire relationship arc. And crucially, as we noted, the fight is framed almost entirely over the unknown future, not over present feelings.
They aren't fighting about trust today. They're fighting about who they fear the other person will become when hundreds of miles and new social dynamics intervene.
It's the classic long-distance argument that plagues U.S. college-bound couples. It's a preemptive strike born of terror.
The almost breakup feels like unnecessary cruelty, but structurally it's a vital mechanism. Why must the relationship come to the brink right before separation?
It serves a powerful, necessary narrative function to confirm commitment through maximum pain. By pushing the relationship to the absolute brink of collapse and then choosing intentionally to pull it back, they prove that their bond is resilient enough to withstand their worst fears and their biggest arguments.
It's a final emotional catharsis.
It is. It clears the air of all the unspoken fears and resentments accumulated during the countdown, ensuring that they enter the long-distance phase with a painful yet absolute certainty about their mutual commitment.
They negotiate the rules of the distance during this fight, defining the terms of their survival.
They survived the structural split of college and the internal fight. The secret of their high school love has been tested to its limit. Now, the series has to show the survival of that bond against the messy backdrop of adult reality.
Part 5. Real Life and Forever.
This is the resolution and the payoff. Moving the characters out of the high school bubble and testing the relationship against adult realities. This arc confirms the commitment and achieves the final public affirmation.
And the immediate challenge is defeating the geographic threat they fought over in Chapter 19.
Which they do in Chapter 20, the surprise visit. This is the grand, cinematic, romantic gesture required to overcome that physical barrier. 3 a.m. airport runs, unannounced plane tickets, and proof that love can cross state lines.
It's the direct emotional counterpoint to the agonizing practicality of Chapter 15.
Right. The college decision separated them, and the surprise visit dramatically, definitively defeats that distance. The 3 a.m. airport run is such a potent visual symbol of commitment and sacrifice in the long-distance model.
It shows the relationship is worth sleep deprivation, expense, and the disruption of college life.
It provides tangible, undeniable proof that the love established in high school is powerful enough to override the demands of the institutions that tried to pull them apart. It transitions the relationship from one based on convenience to one based on intentional, costly effort.
It's the moment the audience breathes a collective sigh of relief, knowing the effort is mutual.
Which then leads to a significant time jump and a return to daily proximity, but with added adult complexities. Chapter 21, first apartment, first fight, first makeup.
Moving boxes, cheap furniture, and learning that real life is messier than high school ever was.
This is the transition to cohabitation, the ultimate stress test. High school was structured by external factors: parents, bells, mandated schedules. Adult life forces them to create their own structure.
Which is immediately tested by the realities of shared finances, spatial boundaries, and labor division.
And this is where the narrative can, and should, introduce some much-needed relatability and humor.
Let's talk about that U.S. example. The necessity of the cheap furniture detail.
It's universal and deeply relatable. The experience of assembling confusing, low-quality, flat-pack furniture together, the missing screws, the cryptic instructions.
The immediate high-stress situation. It forces rapid collaboration and conflict resolution skills. It symbolizes the immediate messiness and banality of real life. Unlike the dramatic arguments of Chapter 9, adult fights here are over mundane, logistical matters.
The first fight is structurally necessary to prove they can navigate life's ordinary banality together, which is often far harder to survive than high school drama.
It seems real love is built not on grand gestures, but on surviving cheap furniture assembly and still wanting to kiss each other afterward.
A necessary narrative time jump then checks the stability of that foundation. Chapter 22, 2 years later, the reunion.
Coming home for the holidays and seeing how much and how little has changed. This chapter uses the holidays, a traditional U.S. setting, as a reflective pause. By bringing them back to their hometown, the narrative forces them to confront their origin story, the high school versions of themselves who first shared a glance in art class.
It's the essential check-in, comparing the current adult self with the past self. It affirms the core stability of the relationship while celebrating the personal growth they achieved during separation.
The things that haven't changed are their commitment and love. The things that have changed are their maturity and their now public affirmation.
This narrative beat provides profound audience satisfaction, confirming that the foundation laid during those tumultuous high school years was robust enough to endure. The secret of their youth is now the stable history of their adulthood.
Which leads to the beautiful structural return to the symbol of their secret and vulnerability. Chapter 23. The sketchbook comes full circle.
New drawings, old memories, and passing the story on to someone who needs it now.
This is the ultimate narrative payoff for the sketchbook. It was a symbol of secrecy, a catalyst for crisis, and now it's a source of profound wisdom.
It transitions from a vehicle of a personal hidden secret to a tool for shared wisdom and mentorship. It completes Charlie's psychological arc.
The focus shifts entirely from individual pain to shared legacy.
Exactly. Charlie is no longer the isolated youth making fearful, secret drawings. They are now the mentor, the guide. By passing the story, or the sketchbook itself, on to a younger, struggling student, the narrative ensures that the hard-won lessons are not lost.
It repurposes the object of early terror as a symbol of empowerment.
We've arrived at the final moments of this 24-chapter guide, confirming the endurance of Charlie's story. We are just about to reveal the ultimate secret. As always, we are thankful for your time in this extended deep dive. If you enjoyed the structural analysis, please do like, subscribe, and share for more updates on future deep dives.
Okay, the final chapter. This provides the conclusive resolution and the definitive structural payoff.
Moving from the messy reality of the apartment to a settled, permanent, and celebratory symbol.
Chapter 24. Our secret is no longer a secret. The series finale. A quiet bench, 2 rings, and the realization that the greatest secret was always that they were never alone.
Let's analyze the image of the quiet bench. It has to contrast every setting that came before. It's not the hidden rooftop, the anxious hallway, or the loud road trip.
The bench suggests a settled, shared, and publicly accepted space. A space of rest and permanence.
And the 2 rings, of course, are the traditional U.S. symbol of permanent public commitment. It defies all the social and structural pressures that tried to marginalize them throughout the 24 chapters.
But the ultimate revelation, the secret of secrets that the title promised, lies in that final phrase.
Yes. The journey wasn't about successfully hiding their identity. It was about finding the courage to reveal it, only to realize that their deepest, most vulnerable truth was shared and therefore protected.
The story ends, not with a dramatic escape, but with a quiet, public, and permanent confirmation that they were found by each other and accepted by the world.
Proving that vulnerability was the path to freedom.
Now, the sources suggest some bonus content. A Q&A, a live finale party, a Where Are They Now? Epilogue. What's the role of this postscript material?
They're crucial for completing the modern communal storytelling experience. The Q&A builds direct audience connection. The live finale watch party converts a private viewing experience into a massive communal celebration.
Which reinforces the GSA theme of solidarity from way back in Chapter 7.
It does. It confirms Charlie's secret has become a shared, positive public narrative, and the Where Are They Now epilogue.
That provides the maximum reader satisfaction.
It looks 10 years into the future and provides proof of permanence. It shows the audience that the intense struggles, the family fights, the college distance, the messy first apartment were not just temporary high school drama, but were essential, durable foundations for a flourishing, permanent adult life.
It's the ultimate antidote to the existential fear introduced by that long-distance threat in Chapter 15.
So what does this all mean? We started with the dramatic promise of a Dan Brown-esque secret hidden power, explosive truth.
And what we found was that the deepest secret of all was the profound vulnerability required to live authentically, and the powerful narrative structure necessary to map that emotional growth.
What's fascinating here is precisely how the source material meticulously structures courage. It shows that initial fear, family confrontation, GSA meetings agonizing college decisions, and even trivial moments like cheap furniture assembly are all equally essential chapters in a universal journey towards self-acceptance.
The arc isn't just about romance. It's about the slow, deliberate, chapter-by-chapter dismantling of both internal and external barriers.
This deep dive shows us that narrative structure isn't just arbitrary pacing. It's a map for emotional survival. We see the clear, hard-earned progression from the silent, terrified glance of art class to the public, celebrated commitment on the quiet bench.
Every moment of avoidance or fear was structurally necessary to make the eventual celebration feel completely earned and profoundly true.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, every single one of those 24 chapters demanded a moment of radical honesty with the self, with the partner, or with the world that moved the character inexorably closer to freedom.
The secret of secrets wasn't a historical artifact. It was their own potential happiness, protected by their fear, and finally freed by their courage.
We've seen how Charlie's journey turns a private fear into a public truth, celebrated with 2 rings. Now, consider this. If your own personal journey was broken down into 24 distinct chapters, which 3 of those chapters would still feel like they belong on a secret rooftop, and why haven't they made it to the public wedding bench yet? Something to explore on your own.
Thank you for joining us for this extensive deep dive into narrative structure and emotional breakthroughs.
We'll see you next time for our next deep dive into the secrets of the sources.